This happened to a friend of mine many years ago, and I'll try to relate it to you as best as I can. It was in the 90s and I was hitching in CA through the Gabriel area heading north. He was picked up by a very heavy guy driving a van. They were heading up 101, and for those who are familiar with the area, the old Red Hood highway runs are fairly parallel to the 101, as parallel as you can get with being in the middle of the redwoods. So it's night time and they were driving along chatting. The conversation begins to get pretty awkward. The driver then hops off the 101 and begins to take the old Redwood highway. Now this move makes absolutely no sense, as the 101 is windy enough. The old highway even more so. It takes longer, and with a hitchhiker at night, it doesn't add up that he would want to make this route. The man asked my friend why he wasn't afraid of killing him. My friend, feeling nervous, is now totally freaked out. In an attempt to seem as calm as possible, he replies, "Well, I don't know you, so how can I know if you wanted to kill me?" Trying to sound indifferent to the idea, the man then begins to heading up an old logger road. At this point, my friend is losing it. He is thinking through all the possible scenarios and how he can get away. He had a pocket knife and considered him, but the guy was so large, he figured it would barely bother him. Knowing he didn't likely have long to make a move, clutching his backpack, he opens the door and jumps out the moving van. He begins running down the forest at night. He could barely see anything in front of him. He continued to run downwards, back towards the main road through the trees. By this time, the man had spotted the van, hopped out and began screaming for him to come back. My friend continued to run down until he felt like he was far away, that there was no way the man would ever come after him. He crouched down behind a tree and watched the man go back into his van and continued to shine his headlights through the trees, hoping to spot him. Thankfully, he was that far enough that the light wasn't shining that far. He stayed there until daybreak and then went back to the main road, now hitchhiking home. This story has had to be one of the scariest. During beach week after my senior year of high school, me and my best friend were trying to get down to our friend's place, which was 75 streets away. After walking for a couple blocks, we decided to get much more drinking much faster if we hitched a ride. Lucky us, pretty much every group of guys driving down was yelling at us, as they do to every girl walking down the street. One car yells, "Hey, need a ride?" My friend and I look at each other and drunkenly decide, "Fuck it," and hop in their car. It's about 4 big guys in there, kinda white trash, but friendly enough. My friend and I were joking with them, and she says, "Whatever you do, just don't kill us." Next thing you know, they start messing with us and start telling us about the weapons they have in the car and show us a gun. We get pretty freaked out, but I figured it would be better to stay friendly with them. Next thing we know, however, the guys are turning off the main road and pull into a dark parking lot. I think they were just trying to scare us because of the 5 minutes of them keeping us there, and they drove us to our friend's house and dropped us off. I'm sure if I hadn't been drunk, I would have been a lot more scared, but I definitely learned my lesson about not accepting rides from strangers. A few years ago, me and my 2 buddies were on our way to a poker tournament in another state, maybe a 3-hour drive. About an hour in or so, we pass a hitchhiker, and then my friend who starts to pull over, I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?" He says, "I'm gonna give this dude a ride. I do it all the time." The hitchhiker was male, around 40 years old, and judging by his looks and stench, he was likely homeless. Strangest of all, he was carrying what I can only describe as a diaper bag and an oversized purse. Naturally, I'm a little concerned, and I'm sitting in the back alone, while my 2 buddies were in the front. Anyway, as we pull over, the hitchhiker runs up to catch us. My buddy in the passenger seat rolls down the window and says, "Where you headed?" It turns out he was headed into the same city as we were. So the driver asks, "What's in the bag?" And the hitchhiker simply replies, "None of your business." We were all quite taken back, as this guy is asking for a ride but won't answer a simple question. The driver explains to him, "Look, I'll give you a ride, but I need to know what's in that bag for safety reasons." So I tell him one more time, what's in the bag? And he says once again, none of your fucking business. Right at that moment, my buddy in the passenger seat grabs the bag and yells, go, go, go. We speed off as the hitchhiker chases us yelling and screaming. I gave up after a few seconds. It was the most bizarre thing that ever happened to me.